if you had told me this time last year that I would have been in 4 plays by this time this year, I would not have believed you. I've never imagined in a million years that I would be any good at acting. I never thought that I would be cast because I thought the competition would be too great. And yet here I am. I have done 4 plays. I have played the lead in 2 of them, and I have been joint lead in 1 of them, which is quite astonishing, particularly since I find it really hard to learn my lines. The production that we've just finished, A Bunch of Amateurs, is an incredibly funny play, co-written by Ian Hislop, all about an amateur drama group, and I played Dorothy, the director, who was having to wrangle a Hollywood actor who thought that he was playing King Lear in at Stratford-on-Avon, but in fact had been drafted in by an amateur dramatics group in Stratford St John in Suffolk, so he was not happy. It was a brilliant role, but as the director of the play in the play, I had so many stage directions to learn and I could not get it straight. We had rehearsals every night last week, and even when we did the dress rehearsal the night before the first performance, I could not get these lines right. And I was predominantly upset because I thought I was going to let everyone else down. They had all worked incredibly hard and it looked as though I wasn't working as hard as they were. So what happened? Well, I had to first of all understand what I was finding so hard. And this is key for you. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about me learning my lines, you not like enjoying doing presentations, or finding it difficult to communicate with a particular partner or senior lawyer in your organisation. You've got to understand why you're finding this difficult. And for me, it was because I had so many other things to remember. I had 15 costume changes and I had to remember to bring props on. I had to remember to take props off. And then in between some of the scenes, I had to pop up on stage and spout a bit of Shakespeare. There was so much going on and I was giving myself a hard time when in fact my character had way more to do than any of the other characters. So that was the first thing. Understand what you're finding difficult about this particular task. The second thing I realised was essential was that I couldn't do it by myself. I needed to get inspiration from somewhere. And I asked I asked a lot of the other cast members who had been doing this for years. You know, you've got to remember, I'd only started this a year ago. They'd been doing it for decades in some cases. And somebody came up with a brilliant idea that as the director, I was always carrying around my notebook. So why didn't I just write the lines and the directions into my notebook? So I scuttled home and don't tell the copyright people, but I did photocopy the pages that I was struggling with and I stuck them into my notebook so that on the night of the performance, I could actually just scroll through and write, all right, we're in Act 1, Scene 5. Okay, so my stage direction is... And it worked brilliantly. It worked like a dream. And of course, once I got it to work on Friday night, on the Saturday matinee, Saturday night, I was just on a roll. However, as soon as I learnt one set of lines, I then promptly forgot something else. And on Friday night, we got to a point in the dialogue where there was a whole stage full of actors and there's me, and they're all looking around thinking, I'm sure someone's supposed to say something. And then they were trying to help me by saying, isn't there something else? Doesn't someone else want to say something? And I suddenly realised, oh my goodness, I've missed my cue. I've got a line. So what was my get out plan? My get out plan was simply to be honest. And so I just popped up and said, oh, I think I've got a line here. And you know what? It got one of the biggest laughs of the evening. And what made that work was that other people in the audience, there were lots of other people from amateur drama groups, and they sympathised because they would all have been in that situation. So again, pulling this back to you in your career, do not imagine for one moment that what you are experiencing difficulties with is unique to you. I'm willing to bet that if you tell me what your issue is, what you're struggling with, I will have worked with half a dozen lawyers, probably even more than that, who have experienced those same doubts. So the final sort of top tip that I have pulled out of this experience of mine is to have a get out plan. So know what you will do if you stumble over your words, if you say something that isn't 100% correct, if you find that you're being interrupted or you have accidentally interrupted somebody else. Know what you want to do if, I wasn't going to say when then, but if it happens. Because, funny enough, we're not all perfect. No one's perfect. We're human. We make mistakes. It's what we do in those instances when we make the mistake, when things don't go according to plan, that really sorts us out as to the people who you want to work with, that you trust, that you feel are a safe pair of hands, and those that perhaps don't quite gel as well. So, number one, understand why you're finding this thing hard, and then work out your solution around that. Number two, ask for inspiration, advice, find a mentor, etc., etc. And then number three, have a get out plan. Know what you want to do. Build some options into how you're going to manage things if they don't quite work out according to plan. We had the best time on Saturday, and partly that was because a couple of the guys in the cast decided that because it was our last performance, they were going to play up a little bit. So one of them came on dressed as, he was meant to be playing Goneril from King Lear, and he came on with just a dress draped over him and his underpants. And I just turned around and saw this man in his underpants, and so I thought, okay. So I grabbed his hand, I took him to the front of the stage, and I made him do a twirl in front of everybody. And of course, again, it just brought the house down. No, I hadn't been expecting it. I wasn't sure, how it was going to land, and it was fine, and everybody laughed, and it was brilliant. So that's my little love letter to Amdram. Anyway, I'm going to leave you now with those thoughts of what can I learn from this rather sideways experience of Paula's, but actually there are some really key learning points in there, and let me know how you get on with implementing them.